The other day I recorded a video in which I asked the question, why are the elites, particularly in Europe, staying the course with this sanctioning of Russia when that very course is resulting in the tanking of the economy, fuel shortages, food shortages, and all other kinds of problems. And I, go at the same time as these same would-be controllers, these powers that shouldn't be, also choosing that particular time to take a stand against Dutch meat farmers and so forth. And I didn't claim to have the answer because I don't know the answer, but I wondered if it was something where they could be plotting, for there to be a catastrophic breakdown, and then they could say, well, things have broken down. This is where we need to, how we get to, institute our Great Reset, folks. Yes. Now's the time for our Great Reset. What do we got to lose? We're already in shambles. We're already in tatters because of the policies that we put into place. So now let's have a Great Reset. What do you say, folks? So that was what I wondered, while at the same time thinking to myself, well, that doesn't really seem to make much sense as a strategy, because they are transparently the ones who are pushing this agenda, so they will easily be seen as the culprit when things go to shit. So because I'm a nerd and a geek, I made the comparison to Palpatine in the Star Wars prequels, or the contrast rather, because in those films, Palpatine, who later became the Emperor, the main villain, he was the main villain all along, but in the first three movies, he was in stealth and nobody suspected him, but he was really the one who was causing all the chaos and driving the crisis, driving both sides of the crisis, and he was successfully cloaking himself behind this mask of a well-meaning representative of the people, and nobody knew that it was him until it was too late. In this case, we know that it's them, so so it's not really it's not really that cunning of a plan, if that is their plan. Now, I gave that long preamble here because it made me think. Today I was thinking about how, in a deeper sense, the sexual revolution, which was put in place really beginning with the invention of the pill, but I think things were heading in that direction even before then, even in times like decades like the 40s and 50s, where old-fashioned conservative values still held sway and monogamy was still the promoted way to organize things. Even then, there were the seeds of this sexual revolution, which eventually, had its bitter flowering over the course of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, aughts, and into today. And if you think about it, this change has really made things terribly unstable. It's created a huge degree of instability where previously there had been none. Now, I'm not saying things were always perfect under the monogamic rule, when monogamy was the rule of the day. But monogamy had a way of smoothing things out. So even if you didn't care about the moral side of it, even if you didn't care about people enough to think I want to, maximize people's happiness, I want people to live harmoniously with one another, and monogamy is really the best way to do that. Even if you didn't give a shit about those things, if you were just a Machiavellian, you would still have to admit that when monogamy goes away, you have a lot of problems. Because when monogamy is reduced by polygyny or polygamy, or some other word starting with the prefix poly, then what you've done is you've created a subgroup of people who are unwanted. Under monogamy, you had people were encouraged to either marry, or if they weren't called to marriage, maybe they were called to celibacy, and not necessarily, the celibacy promoted by the church, but possibly some people just wanted to go through their lives single and unattached, and it was thought that to a certain degree, a certain number of those kind of people are okay, but if you have too many, single men, then you kind of think there's some people, maybe they'd be fooling around, probably fornicating, and if you have, too many aging spinster women, that obviously. You've obviously created a lot of misery there. When you talk about spinster women, you're talking about women who wished that they had been able to get married and have children, but were not, who missed their chance. Not women who consciously chose celibacy, who chose the veil, or if not the veil, who just chose to be celibate for whatever reason. So marriage was generally encouraged for most people, and singlehood past a certain age, if you were a man, kind of made people look at you a little suspiciously, because they thought maybe you were a pervert, or maybe you were what we'd call today a player. Maybe you were doing things you shouldn't be doing. And again, you got the accompanying group of women who were, generally speaking, unhappy old maids or spinsters, because they'd been denied the chance, to get married and to have children, and motherhood was highly reverenced at that time. So again, it wasn't perfect, and you ran the risk of, if you weren't married, being seen as either someone who was pitiable if you were a woman, or being seen as someone who was an oddball and potentially a troublemaker if you were a man. But generally speaking, the monogamic norm created a situation in which there was more stability. And again, like I was starting to say before, if you just approached the whole thing with a Machiavellian mindset, I don't care I don't care at all about people's happiness, and I'm not at all a moralist, but I want what will work, what will keep order. Then monogamy did the trick. because once monogamy was eschewed, once it was thrown away as the norm, which isn't to say people don't live monogamic lives. They do today, even today. But it's no longer the norm that it was. And there are far fewer marriages, and there are a lot more marriages ending in divorce, and there are a lot more people living together who aren't married. Even our beloved new based Italian prime minister, for all that seems right with her. Apparently she's living in an irregular situation where she has a kid and she's living with a man, but they're not married. So, even among the conservatives, the ultra conservatives, like Meloni, what do we call her? What's the Italian address? Like Bambina Meloni, or whatever. I don't know what you call an unmarried woman in Italian, like you'd say Miss in English, or Mademoiselle in French, or Fräulein in German. Anyway, so the sexual revolution, was sold, but it was sold like a bill of goods to people. It was sold to men like, oh yeah, now you'll get to get with whoever you want, and it was sold to women as like, now you don't have to be bound to a husband. Now you can go and be independent and do what you please. And it was presumed, or it was, by dupes, it was presumed to be something that would enhance overall human happiness. I don't think that the people who knew what they were doing, who knew what this would ultimately result in, the Emperor Palpatine's equivalent here, amongst those pushers of the sexual revolution, they must have been, amongst them there must have been some who were smart enough to know that this was going to create a lot of chaos. This was going to create a lot of loneliness and a lot of heartbreak. Because what do you have? What happens when you take away monogamy? I mean, we've been through this before, but I'll just say it again. What happens is you have the top the top tier, whoever are perceived as the top tier of men in looks or in money or in status or in some other quality that's much in much coveted, much wanted by female. Those are the female persuasion. You have those types of men having incredible success with just about anybody, any woman, and those women all gravitating to the very top of the top tier of men, while and ultimately, though, getting frustrated because these men aren't committing to them, because why should they? What's in it for them to commit to any one woman when they can have any woman they want any day of the week, any week of the year. So it's not creating happiness in women, and also for most men, the everybody but the top tier gets increasingly ignored, gets increasingly treated like they're just, furniture, like they don't really exist except, in the notorious friend zone, right? All this could have been seen ahead of time by the purveyors of the sexual revolution. It wasn't really that difficult to see that we would have this kind of outcome that it's having right now, and yet it was pushed anyway. So once again, just like with the crisis in Europe right now, where the world leaders, mostly unelected ones, are pushing this policy that will ultimately lead to disaster, and it's like a slow motion disaster. We see it coming, and it could be altered if they just changed course, but they're not seeming to be willing to change course. The same can be said in a longer term sense about the sexual revolution. They must have known that it would create chaos. They must have known that it would create misery, and yet they promoted it anyway. They used their enormous power, their enormous leverage to push it, and so-called enlightened types in the West got behind this notion that we need to have a change. We need to get rid of the stodgy old ways of the past, and we need to change everything. We need to fix what wasn't broken. It was, again, the monogamic norms. There were problems. It wasn't something that suited absolutely everyone in every way, but generally speaking, on a society-wide level, it was what created order, and what greatly reduced misery, both to men and to women. So I couldn't help but see this parallel, and in both cases, you have the supposed smart class, the ruling class, the people who edit all the glossy magazines, and who smarmily talk to us on late night talk shows and elsewhere. You know exactly who I'm talking about. You know the type of people I mean. Again, some of them are probably just dupes. Some of them are probably just reaping the rewards of going along with the prevalent ideology, the promoted ideology. But a lot of them must know we're headed for a big crash. When you got a huge number of men who are unwanted, who are pissed off, who increasingly feel that they've got nothing to lose, that's not a good situation. And they must know that. They must know that on some level, although they seem to be completely ignorant when you try to engage them on the subject. So just like they seem to be completely ignorant about where this policy with continually promoting financially this proxy war in Ukraine, and putting these sanctions on Russia, where that's leading everything as well. The same, it's leading to the same place, leading to disaster, leading to ruin. So again, with the sexual revolution, are they trying to create this kind of disaster so that they can reap the rewards of this slow motion kind of catastrophe that's happened over and over? It's happened over a long period of time, over decades. What's the end game is again my question. And I welcome anyone with ideas, although I would just, again, I don't want to, I just, don't be so categorical. Don't think you know everything, and don't think that these so-called leaders of ours, don't give them too much credit. Okay, they're not that smart. They're evil, and they're powerful, but they're not that smart. If they were smarter, there wouldn't be so much unrest. There wouldn't be so many people hating them right now. They would be much more like Palpatine. They'd be much more cloaked. No, I'm just your friendly neighborhood world ruler who wants to make you all live in a just world.